The message came at 0300 hours. Admiral Doan Kong was sleeping in his quarters aboard the flagship when the emergency alarm pulled him from his dreams. He had been dreaming of his daughter again. She was laughing, running through the parks of New Seoul, calling him to come play. He would never hear that laugh again. The communication officer's face was pale. When Doan reached the bridge, "Sir, we received a distress signal from New Seoul Colony." Then, nothing. Complete silence. Doan felt something cold settle in his chest. New Seoul was Earth's largest colony. 4 million people lived there. His daughter, Ji-won, was one of them. She had moved there 3 years ago to work as a teacher. "How long to reach the colony?" he asked. 6 hours at maximum speed, sir." "Do it." The 6 hours felt like 6 years. Doan stood on the bridge the entire time, watching the stars streak past. He tried to contact Ji-won, no answer. He tried the colony's central command. No answer. He tried emergency services, hospitals, schools. Nothing but silence. When they finally arrived at New Seoul, Doan understood why. The cities were burning. Not with fire, but with something worse. A green mist hung over everything. Buildings stood empty. Streets were filled with bodies. Men, women, children, elderly. They lay where they had fallen, their faces frozen in expressions of pain and terror. Biological weapon. The words appeared on his screen sent by the ship's medical officer. Veilor origin. Fast acting. No survivors detected. Doan ordered his shuttle down to the surface. His officers tried to stop him. The air might still be poisonous. He did not care. He walked through streets he had visited many times before. Past the restaurant where Ji-won had taken him for her birthday. Past the school where she taught young children to read. Past the small apartment building where she lived. He found her in her classroom. She had died trying to protect her students. 20 small bodies lay around her, and she had her arms spread wide, as if she could shield them from death itself. Doan fell to his knees. He did not cry. Something inside him had gone cold and hard, like iron cooling in water. He stayed there for a long time, holding his daughter's hand. 4.2 million people. That was the final count. The Velar Dominion had killed 4.2 million civilians in less than 3 hours. No warning. No declaration of war. No military targets. Just death, falling from the sky like rain. Captain Unipark arrived 2 days later with the rescue fleet, but there was no one to rescue. She walked through the ruins of her hometown, searching for her parents and her younger brother Minho. She found their identification tags in the rubble of their home. Nothing else remained. Yuna had always been a soldier who followed rules. She believed in honor, in the laws of civilized warfare that the Galactic Accord had created. These laws said you could not target civilians. You could not use biological weapons. You had to allow surrender. You had to treat prisoners with dignity. The Veilor had broken every single law. And what had happened to them? Nothing. The Galactic Accord held an emergency meeting. Representatives from 200 species gathered to discuss the massacre. They expressed deep concern. They offered thoughts and prayers. They voted to impose economic sanctions on the Velar Dominion. Economic sanctions. Yuna listened to the announcement and felt her hands shake with rage. Her brother had been 15 years old. He had wanted to be a pilot. Now he was Ash, and the galaxy offered sanctions. Overlord Thane of the Velar Dominion laughed when he heard the news. He appeared on galactic broadcasts, his gray face twisted in a smile. "The humans were warned," he said. "They refused to give us what we wanted. This is what happens to species that forget their place." Doan watched the broadcast alone in his quarters. He had not slept in 3 days. He had not eaten in 2. He simply sat, watching Thane laugh about the death of millions. Something broke inside him. Or perhaps something finally came together. Earth's World Council called an emergency session. Every leader on the planet attended. The room was silent when Doan walked to the podium. Everyone knew he had lost his daughter. Everyone knew what he had seen. "For 50 years we followed the rules," Doan began. His voice was calm, too calm. We joined the Galactic Accord. We signed the laws of civilized warfare. We believed that civilization meant something. We believed that rules would protect us. He paused, looking at the faces before him. We were wrong. A murmur ran through the room. The Velar used our civilization against us. They knew we would not strike first. They knew we would follow proper channels. They knew that even if they murdered millions, the galaxy would only send harsh words. His voice grew harder. They used our honor as a weapon, and our children paid the price. He placed his hands on the podium. I am not asking for revenge. Revenge is emotional. What I'm asking for is simple. If the rules do not protect us, then the rules no longer apply. If civilized warfare means watching our families die while the galaxy offers sanctions, then we are done being civilized. The room was completely silent. The Velar wanted to teach humanity a lesson. They wanted us to know our place. Doan's eyes were cold. It is time we taught them what humans do when their children are murdered. It is time the galaxy learned why we locked away our most terrible weapons. It is time for everyone to understand that mercy was always a choice, and they have taken that choice from us. The vote was unanimous. Earth withdrew from the laws of civilized warfare. Every restriction, every limit, every rule that had held humanity back was removed. That night, Una stood at the memorial site on New Sol. The names of the dead scrolled across a giant screen. 4.2 million names. She found her parents. She found Minho. I am going to make them pay, she whispered. Every single one of them. I promise. Somewhere in the darkness of space, humanity began to prepare. And for the first time in 50 years, the galaxy had a reason to be afraid. 3 months after the massacre, Earth went silent. With the rest of the galaxy stopped. Trade ships returned to port. Diplomatic channels closed. The planet that had once been so eager to make friends among the stars simply disappeared behind a wall of silence. The galaxy did not know what to think. On the Velar homeworld, Overlord Thane celebrated. They are broken, he announced to his commanders. The humans have crawled back to their little world to cry. Soon they will beg for peace, and we will take everything they have. Commander Solis was not so certain. He had studied human history. He had read about their wars, their weapons, their capacity for destruction. My lord, he said carefully, humans do not go quiet when they are broken. They go quiet when they are planning. Thane dismissed him with a wave. You worry too much. They are weak. Their laws made them weak. We showed them their place. But Solis could not shake his worry. He sent scouts to watch Earth's borders. The scouts found nothing. No ships, no signals, no sign of life. It was as if humanity had simply vanished. Deep beneath Earth's surface, in bunkers that had been sealed for decades, Dr. Taiwu Shin worked without rest. He was the greatest weapons scientist humanity had ever produced. 20 years ago, he had created weapons so terrible that Earth's government had forbidden their use. They had locked them away, buried them deep, tried to forget they existed. Now Taiwu was bringing them back. This one is called the Swarm, he explained to Admiral Doan, holding up a small metal sphere. One sphere contains 10,000 microdrones. They can enter any ship through the smallest hole. They can destroy a fleet in minutes. We ban them because they cannot tell the difference between soldiers and civilians. Doan looked at the sphere. Can you make them tell the difference? Taiwu paused. Yes, with time. But it will make them less effective. Do it. We're not them. We do not kill children. In another bunker, Captain Unipark trained her new unit. She had named them the Black Tide. They were soldiers who had lost everything in the massacre. Wives, husbands, children, parents. They had nothing left but rage and skill. Forget everything you learned about honorable combat, Una told them on the first day. The Velar expect us to line up our ships and fight by the rules. They expect us to announce our attacks. They expect us to give them a chance to surrender. She smiled, and there was no warmth in it. We will do none of these things. She taught them infiltration. How to enter a ship without being detected. How to disable systems from the inside. How to vanish before anyone knew they were there. She taught them fear. How to leave messages in the wreckage. how to make the enemy see threats in every shadow, how to break their spirit before breaking their bodies. She taught them patience, how to wait for days without moving, how to strike at the perfect moment, how to let the enemy destroy themselves with paranoia. Among her recruits was Lieutenant Hannah Rue. Hannah was only 23 years old. She had been visiting her grandmother on New Sol when the attack came. She had hidden in a basement for 6 hours, listening to people die above her. She finally came out. She was the only person alive for kilometers. Something had died inside Hannah that day. Fear, perhaps, or hope. She did not know which. She only knew that she felt nothing when she thought about killing Vila. Nothing at all. "I want to volunteer for the suicide missions," she told Yuna. Yuna studied the young woman's face. She saw the emptiness there. She recognized it. She felt the same emptiness in herself. "There are no suicide missions," Yuna said. "It's only missions where death is acceptable. You will learn to value your life again, Lieutenant, not because life is precious, but because you are more useful to me alive." On the Velar border, Envoy Myra watched the empty space where human ships used to travel. She had been a diplomat for 30 years. She had negotiated with dozens of species. She had warned Overlord Thane not to attack the humans. "They are young," she had said, "but they are not weak. Their history is written in blood. They fight each other more than any species we have ever seen. They have had thousands of wars. They know things about destruction that we cannot imagine." Thane had not listened. Thane never listened. Now Mira quietly began moving her family away from the border worlds. She did not know what was coming, but she knew it would be terrible. General Sung Ho Beek was 60 years old. He had spent his entire life as a soldier, following the rules of civilized warfare. He had believed in those rules. He had taught them to younger soldiers. He had thought they made humanity better than the species that ignored them. His grandson had lived on New Sol. "The rules only work if everyone follows them," Sung Ho told Doan one night as they reviewed battle plans. "We followed them. We were good. And they used our goodness to murder our families. Do you regret being good?" Doan asked. Sung Ho was quiet for a long moment. "No. I regret believing that goodness would protect us. I regret teaching my grandson that the galaxy was safe." He looked at the plans on the table. "I will not make that mistake again." On the 90th day of silence, Earth's fleet emerged from hiding. The ships had been modified. They were painted black, running without lights or identification signals. They looked like shadows given form. Admiral Doan opened a single communication channel. His message was broadcast to every species in the galaxy. "We tried civilization," he said. "We followed your laws. We were patient and peaceful and kind. Our children died screaming while you offered sanctions." His face was hard as stone. "No more. From this moment, we fight like humans, and may whatever gods you pray to have mercy on our enemies. Because we will not." The channel closed. The silence ended, and the galaxy finally understood what it meant to make humanity angry. The first attack came without warning. One moment, the Villar shipyard at Station Corinth was operating normally. Workers moved between ships. Officers gave orders. Guards stood at their posts, bored and tired. The next moment, the station was dying. Captain Unipark's Black Tide had infiltrated the station 2 days earlier. They had come in as workers, as traders, as refugees seeking shelter. They had spread through the station like poison and blood. And when the signal came, they struck from everywhere at once. Power systems failed. Life support shut down. Doors sealed themselves, trapping thousands of Velor in rooms that slowly ran out of air. The guards tried to fight back, but they could not find an enemy. The Black Tide moved through shadows, striking and vanishing, leaving only bodies behind. When it was over, the station drifted in space, dark and silent. 40,000 Villiers had lived there. None survived. There was no message, no claim of responsibility, just destruction. Commander Solis received the news on his flagship. His hands trembled as he read the report. "They killed everyone," he whispered. "Not a single survivor, not even a warning." Overlord Thane refused to believe it. "One station means nothing. We have hundreds of stations, thousands of ships. The humans cannot fight us all." But more attacks followed. Dr. Taiwu Shin released his drone swarms into Velar space. The tiny machines moved like clouds of metal insects. They found supply ships and ate through their holes in minutes. They found fuel depots and turned them into explosions. They found communication relays and reduced them to scrap. The Velar could not stop them. The drones were too small, too fast, too many. For every 1,000 they destroyed, 10,000 more appeared. And every time the Velar found a destroyed target, it found the same message carved into the wreckage. New Soul remembers. Lieutenant Hanaru led a team of 12 soldiers on a different kind of mission. They did not attack military targets. They attacked fear itself. Velar officers began dying in their beds. Their security systems showed nothing unusual. Their guards saw nothing suspicious. But in the morning, officers were found dead, with small notes beside their bodies listing the names of human children who had died on New Soul. The Velar. Atari began to panic. Officers refused to sleep alone. Guards watched each other as much as they watched for enemies. Rumors spread that humans could walk through walls, that they could become invisible. They were not really alive at all, but ghosts seeking revenge. Hannah knew the truth was simpler. Humans were just better at killing. They had practiced on each other for thousands of years. The Velar had never faced an enemy like them. Overlord Thane decided to end the war with one massive strike. He gathered the largest fleet in Velar history, 500 warships, carrying 200,000 soldiers. He would find the human fleet and destroy it in a single battle. Admiral Doan let him gather his forces. He watched from a distance as the Velar fleet assembled. He waited as they organized their attack formations. He was patient. Then, on the night before the Velar planned to move, Taiwu's nanomachines went to work. They had been placed in the fuel supplies months ago, hidden among normal maintenance materials. Now they activated, breaking down the fuel molecule by molecule. When the Velar fleet tried to move, half their ships could not start. Engines failed. Power systems died. 250 warships drifted helpless in space, their crews trapped inside metal coffins. Doan did not attack the helpless ships. That would have been expected. Instead, he broadcast a message to the Velar crews. You have 12 hours to abandon your ships. After that, we will not be so generous. Some crews escaped. Others were too proud to run. After 12 hours, Doan kept his word. The drone swarms descended on the remaining ships like metal locusts. General Sunho. Beak landed on the Velar military world of Thraxis with 30,000 human soldiers. The Velar had expected a siege. They had prepared defenses, gathered supplies, made plans to hold out for months. Sunho did not give them months. He did not give them days. His soldiers fought without rest. They pushed forward constantly, never giving the Velar time to organize. They used weapons the galaxy had never seen. Sonic cannons that made soldiers drop their weapons and scream. Flash bombs that blinded for hours. Gas that caused uncontrollable terror, and through it all, they refused to take prisoners. Sir, one of his officers said, some of them are trying to surrender. Sungho remembered his grandson, 7 years old. Loved to play with toy soldiers. Wanted to be a general like his grandfather someday? They showed our civilians no mercy, Sungho said. His voice was flat. Tell them we have learned from their example. Back on the Velar homeworld, Commander Solus gave his report to Overlord Thane. His voice shook as he spoke. They are not fighting a war, Solus said. They are hunting us. They do not want territory. They do not want resources. They do not want surrender. He looked at Thane with eyes full of fear. They want us to suffer. And they are very, very good at making people suffer. Thane sat in silence. For the first time since the war began, he did not have a response. Far away. In the cold darkness between stars, Unipark looked at reports of the day's missions. Stations destroyed. Ships eliminated. Officers killed. Progress, but she did not feel satisfaction. She felt nothing at all. The rage that had burned in her heart for months had become something colder, something harder, something that would not stop until the Velar. understood exactly what they had done. She thought of her brother Minho, 15 years old, full of dreams. "I promised," she whispered to the empty room. "I keep my promises." The war was far from over, but humanity was just getting started. The Galactic Accord called an emergency summit. Representatives from 200 species gathered in the Great Hall of Unity. They sat in circles that rose to the ceiling, each species in its place. All eyes focused on the center of the room. They had gathered to discuss the human problem. "This is madness," declared Ambassador Vorlon of the Thresh Collective. "The humans are destroying entire stations. They are killing without mercy. They become monsters." "They have become what the Velar made them," said Speaker Thal of the Sindari Republic. "We cannot pretend this started without cause. Cause does not justify genocide," Vorlon shot back. "Neither does it justify the massacre of 4 million civilians," Thal replied. "Yet this body did nothing but offer sanctions." The argument grew louder. Species took sides. Some feared humanity. Others quietly admired them. A few remembered their own histories. Times when they too had been pushed to terrible actions. Then a hologram appeared in the center of the room. Admiral Doan Kong stood before the galaxy, his uniform dark, his face expressionless. "I apologize for interrupting," he said, though his tone held no apology. "I understand. You are discussing whether humans have gone too far." Ambassador Vorlon stood. "You have gone too far. Your methods are savage. Your attacks violate every principle of civilized warfare." Doan let the words hang in the air for a moment. "Civilized warfare," he repeated slowly. "Let me tell you about civilized warfare. My daughter was a teacher on New Sol. She taught children to read. When the Velar attacked, she gathered her students and tried to protect them." His voice remained calm, but something terrible moved behind his eyes. The biological weapon did not care that she was a civilian. It did not care that her students were 5 years old. It killed them all, slowly, painfully, while they screamed for their parents. The hall was silent. "Where was your civilized warfare then?" Doan asked. "Where were your principles when 4 million people died?" "You gave us sanctions." The Velar laughed. He looked around the hall, meeting eyes from a dozen species. "You want us to stop? Tell me, when your children are murdered, will you stop? When your cities are turned to graves, will you be civilized?" No one answered. "We're not asking you to help us," Doan continued. "We are not asking for your approval. We are simply telling you what we told the Velar. Mercy was a choice. They took that choice from us. Now they will learn what humans do when mercy is no longer an option." The hologram vanished. Far from the summit, Captain Unipark led her most daring mission yet. The Hall of Ancestors was the most sacred place in Velar culture. For 1,000 years, their greatest leaders had been honored there. No enemy had ever set foot inside its walls, until now. Una and 50 soldiers infiltrated the hall during a ceremony. They moved through crowds of Velar priests and pilgrims dressed in robes, their weapons hidden. When they reached the central chamber, they revealed themselves, but they did not kill anyone. They simply stood there, weapons raised, in the heart of everything the Velar held sacred. "We could destroy this place," Una announced. "We could burn 1,000 years of your history. We could kill everyone in this room." She lowered her weapon. "But we are not you. We do not murder civilians. We do not destroy what is precious to others for the pleasure of watching them suffer." The Velar priest stared at her, confused and terrified. "We are here to deliver a message," Una said. "There is nowhere we cannot reach. Your homes, your temples, your sacred places. All of them are open to us. If you want this war to end, tell your overlord to surrender, because if he does not, we will keep coming. And next time, we may not be so kind." She and her soldiers vanished as quickly as they had appeared. Not a single Velar was harmed. But the message spread across the Dominion like wildfire. The humans could strike anywhere. No one was safe. Dr. Tai Wuxin created a new weapon. It was not a weapon that killed. It was a weapon that remembered. He programmed drones to broadcast sounds across VLR communication networks. The sounds of new soul, the screams of the dying, the cries of children calling for help. The silence that followed, every Velar ship, every station, every home heard the sounds. They could not block them. They could not escape them. Day and night, the voices of the dead filled their ears. Soldiers could not sleep. Officers could not think. Civilians broke down crying in the streets. The Velar had wanted to make humanity suffer. Now they understood what suffering truly meant. On the Velar homeworld, something unexpected happened. People began to protest. They gathered in the streets, demanding an end to the war. They had never questioned Overlord Thane before. But the screaming in their ears would not stop, and they could not bear it any longer. Envoy Mira saw an opportunity. She had always believed the war was wrong. She had tried to stop it before it started. Now she made a choice. She contacted Admiral Doan through secret channels. "I want to negotiate," she said. "I believe there are those among us who would accept peace." Doan considered her offer. "An Overlord Thane? He will never surrender," Mira admitted. "His pride will not allow it. But if you give the people a reason to hope, they may choose differently." It was a risk. Doan knew it might be a trap. But he remembered what he had told the Galactic Accord. Mercy was a choice. Perhaps it was time to make that choice again. "I am listening," he said, but they were not careful enough. Thane's spies discovered Mira's betrayal. She was arrested, dragged before the Overlord, and executed publicly. Her last words were broadcast across the Dominion. "You started this war," she said, looking at Thane without fear. "You murdered millions, and now you have doomed us all. History will remember you as the fool who destroyed our people." Thane killed her himself in front of thousands of witnesses. He thought it would show strength. Instead, it showed desperation. General Sung Ho Beek's forces reached the edge of the Velar homeworld. 50,000 human soldiers, supported by the full force of Earth's fleet. They had fought across a dozen worlds to reach this point. They had lost friends, brothers, sisters in arms. Now the end was in sight. Sung Ho sent a message to Overlord Thane. His voice was tired but firm. "You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. Release all human prisoners. Dissolve your government. Accept occupation forces. If you refuse, we will not stop at your military. We will make sure the Velar Dominion never threatens anyone again." He paused.
"You have 1 hour?
"Choose wisely." The hour began to count down, and the galaxy held its breath. The hour passed. Overlord Thane did not surrender. He appeared on every screen across his world. Standing tall, his gray face twisted with defiance. "We are the Velar Dominion," he declared. "We do not bow to lesser species. We do not surrender to humans. They think they can frighten us with their tricks and their weapons. They are wrong. We will fight to the last soldier. We will never yield." Admiral Doan watched the broadcast in silence. He had hoped, somehow, that Thane would choose peace, that the deaths could stop, that they could end this nightmare without more blood. But some people could not be reasoned with. Some people only understood destruction. "Begin the attack," Doan ordered. The human fleet moved like a wave of shadow. Ships descended through the atmosphere, weapons blazing. Missiles struck military bases. Drones swarmed defense installations. The sky above the Velar homeworld burned with fire. But something was different about this attack. Dr. Tai Wu. Shin had worked for months on new targeting systems. Every weapon, every drone, every missile was programmed to distinguish between military targets and civilian areas. The technology was not perfect. War was never clean. But humanity had made a choice. They would not become what they were fighting. Military bases exploded. Government buildings collapsed. Weapons factories burned. But homes stood untouched. Schools remained safe. Hospitals continued to operate. The Velar civilians watched in confusion as destruction reigned around them but never touched them. They had expected genocide. They had been told humans were monsters who would kill everyone. Instead, They found themselves protected by the very enemy they had been taught to hate. Lieutenant Hannah Rue led her team through the chaos toward Thane's fortress. The building was massive, built like a mountain of metal and stone. Thousands of guards defended it. Anti-aircraft guns filled the sky with fire. Hannah did not care. She had come too far to stop now. She had lost too much. Her team fought through the outer defenses, losing soldiers with every step. By the time they reached the inner chambers, only 4 of them remained. They found Thane in his throne room. He sat alone, surrounded by screens showing his empire collapsing. His guards had fled. His generals had surrendered. He was the last one still fighting. "You came to kill me?" he said, not looking at Hannah.
Do it.
"I am ready." Hannah raised her weapon. Her finger touched the trigger. She thought of her grandmother dying alone in a basement. She thought of the screams she had heard through the walls. She thought of everyone she had lost. One squeeze. That was all it would take. One moment of pressure, and the creature who had caused so much pain would be gone. But she did not fire. "No," she said. Thane looked up, surprised. "Killing you would be easy," Hannah said. "Quick, painless. You do not deserve easy. You do not deserve quick." She lowered her weapon. "You are going to live. You are going to watch your empire answer for what it did. You are going to spend the rest of your life knowing that we could have killed you, and we chose not to. Because we are better than you." She stepped forward and placed restraints on his wrists. "That," she said quietly, "is a fate worse than death?" Commander Solis surrendered the remaining Velar forces within the hour. The war was over. In the days that followed, the Galactic Accord gathered once more. But this time, Admiral Doan did not come as a hologram. He stood in the center of the Great Hall, surrounded by representatives of 200 species, and he spoke. "We did not want this war," he began. "We came to the stars with open hands. We wanted to learn, to trade, to grow together with the species of this galaxy. Instead, our hands were burned. Our children were murdered. Our trust was destroyed." He looked around the hall. "He gave us rules. We followed them. The Velar broke those rules and killed 4 million people. You gave us sanctions. They laughed." His voice grew harder. "Your laws of civilized warfare are meaningless if there are no consequences for breaking them. They are words on paper, nothing more." He raised a document. "This is humanity's proposal. From this day forward, any species that targets civilians will face immediate military response. Not sanctions. Not harsh words. War. If you murder innocents, you will be destroyed. No exceptions. No excuses." The hall erupted in argument. Some species called the proposal too extreme. Others agreed it was necessary. The debate lasted for days. In the end, the proposal passed. Not unanimously, but by a clear majority. The laws of civilized warfare now had teeth. Captain Unipark stood before the black tide one final time. The unit that had caused so much fear, that had brought the mighty Velar to their knees, was being disbanded. "We did what was necessary," she told her soldiers. "We became something terrible because we had to. Because they gave us no choice. But the war is over. We can choose again. Choose to be something else. Something better." Some of her soldiers nodded. Others stared blankly, unsure how to be anything other than weapons. "It will not be easy," Yuna admitted. "We have blood on our hands that will never wash away. But we can try. We can remember why we fought. Not for revenge. For protection. So that no one ever has to go through what we went through." She dismissed them for the last time. Dr. Taiwushin returned to his bunkers. He locked away the weapons he had created. The drones, the nanomachines, the psychological systems. All of them went back into the darkness. "I hope we never need these again," he said to Admiral Doan. "So do I," Doan replied. "But keep them ready, just in case." Years passed. New Sol was rebuilt. New cities rose where old ones had fallen. New children played in parks where death had once walked. The scars healed slowly, but they healed. Admiral Doan Kong retired. He spent his days at the memorial, surrounded by the names of the fallen. His daughter's name was carved in stone near the center, along with 4.2 million others. One day a young alien approached him. She was from a species that had joined the Galactic Accord after the war. Drawn by humanity's reputation for both terrifying strength and surprising mercy. "I was sent to ask a question," she said nervously. "Several species want to know. Are humans still angry?" Doan looked at the wall of names. He thought of Giwan, laughing in her classroom. He thought of Yuna, standing in the ruins of her hometown. He thought of Hannah, choosing mercy when she had every right to choose death. He thought of Tiwu and Sungho and all the others who had given pieces of themselves to win this war. "No," he said finally. "We are not angry. We are awake, and we will never sleep through a massacre again." He turned back to the memorial. The alien waited, uncertain if she should leave. "Tell your leaders something," Doan said without looking at her. "Tell them that humanity remembers. We remember every kindness and every cruelty. We remember those who stood with us and those who stood against us." He touched his daughter's name. "We came to the stars wanting friendship. That offer still stands, but it comes with a warning now." "What warning?" the alien asked. Duhan smiled. It was not a warm smile. "Never make us go to war again. Because next time, we might not stop." The alien hurried away to deliver her message. Doan stayed at the memorial until sunset, surrounded by the names of the dead. Remembering everything, the inscription at the base of the memorial glowed softly in the fading light. "We came to the stars with open hands. They were burned. We learned, the galaxy learned. Never again. And somewhere in the vastness of space, 200 species looked at humanity with new eyes, not as friends, not as enemies, but as something far more dangerous: survivors."